Wait,
All
hold
right.
up. I can't see. Let me turn on the. I can't see your screen.
Well, okay. Well, do you want me to share my screen on Discord? Okay. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the show. We are here with just 12 subscribers left to go to 10,000 subscribers. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Make sure to go ahead and follow Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And today we're actually being joined by Gold Crown Politics. He's been coming up, recently. He's been doing really good for the past couple of weeks on YouTube, and he's here to also give his input and analysis on this show as well. And you can go ahead and introduce yourself as of right now.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Gold Crown Politics here. I'm excited to be on this live stream.
So pretty much, guys, right now both of us actually have Donald Trump winning with 328 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 210 electoral college votes. And on my end, there's a lot of reasons for this. The polling data, obviously I have my own election model, as you guys all know by now. This is going to be the first year we got to test it out and see how accurate it is. Right now, Donald Trump is leading the aggregate by 2.7%. If you calculate the difference in their favorabilities, it would give you a plus 2.8 Trump national environment. So it actually matches polling, which is quite funny. And if we look at President Biden's approval rating, he's currently sitting at 40%, which is 12 points lower than his national vote share from 2020. And so we just can't really deduce how Biden would perform similarly to how he did in 2020. He'd have to probably have a 45-46% approval rating to even be within striking distance of beating Donald Trump. And as of right now, that does not look like it's going to be the case. And Gold Crown, what are your thoughts on this, so far?
So I definitely think, for this election, I would definitely say that it is an absolute uphill climb for Biden. I feel like, he won the popular vote by 4.5 points back in 2020, and basically all the polling aggregates that you really look at have, it's like tied in the popular vote, or Trump is leading in the popular vote, especially in the five-way race. And so I think it's for Biden to hold on here, it's going to be really, really difficult. I mean, we've looked at approval ratings or job approval. Joe Biden, his approval is sometimes down below 40%, and that approval rating typically matches the national vote share that a candidate receives. And so I think it's just it. I mean, Biden is losing so many different. He's losing with so many different groups of his original coalition, and I think it's going to be really, really tough for him to hang on. I feel like Trump has a major advantage going into November.
Right. I think that's honestly very, very true. And a lot of the factors that kind of play into this are the economy, inflation, crime, foreign affairs, the border. Every issue is bad for the incumbent president. According to RCP, Biden's down 18 points on the economy. He's down 25 points on foreign policy. He is down 30 points on inflation. He's down on crime by 16. He's down on by 30 on immigration. He's down by 30 on the Israel Hamas conflict, even more so than even the economy, which is pretty interesting. Direction of the country, this is going to take a second to load because this goes back to like 2008. But right now it's minus 41.5%, sitting at 24%. And Ukraine currently is a minus 13% approval, which I think it should be lower than that, to be honest. I don't know why it's only minus 13. His Israel Hamas conflict approval rating is like double, which is really interesting that this is what doomed him, not the Ukraine thing. Because even back in like 2023, there was a realistic shot that Biden could have won re-election because the polling data was looking a lot better for him. Back then, it was actually quite funny because even the model now that I have today actually suggests that Donald Trump would have still won in 2023, but it would have been a razor thin election. It actually would have had the electoral college exactly 270 to 268, with Donald Trump basically taking Nevada, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and he would have ended up losing Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona, and that would have given him exactly a 2 point electoral vote victory in the electoral college, which I think would have been really interesting to see that really narrow race. I think that would have definitely pissed off a lot of people at the time, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case anymore. And guys, we are 10 subscribers away from 10K. So if you guys are new, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to subscribe. We are literally 10 subscribers away from 10,000 subscribers as of right now. And we're going to start going over the margins that we have so far, for the electoral map pretty much. And Gold Crown, I'll actually let you go ahead and do the safe and the safe red and safe blue states as of right now.
Yeah, so for my current model, I have just like the typical red states would be yeah, should I go through all of them or just
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. Okay, so safe red states. Let's go Idaho, Utah. Sorry, my screen's kind of lagging, so I'll just say the ones. So Idaho, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, both Dakotas, Nebraska, along with the first district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana. Um, South Carolina, Alaska, and Maine's second district as well. I think that's and then I also have some more on top of that. I actually have both Iowa and Ohio going safe, and this is for the 15-point threshold. So both Iowa and Ohio are safe, as well as both Texas and Florida are safe in my model as well. And for the Joe Biden safe states, I have California, I have the state of Hawaii as well, I have Vermont, I think not Connecticut, I have Maryland, safe Democrat as well, DC, Massachusetts are also safe as well for Biden. And then yeah, so those are the safe states I think that I have right now.
Right, okay, so you're using plus 15. Usually I use plus 10, which is fine. So for the sake of this stream, we're going to use plus 15 as the margin. And what's actually quite funny is that if we go to my model, I don't think I've been able to explain how I made this, but essentially I have my model doing its work. It's programmed for you to basically plug in the RCP approval rating with the incumbent party approval. So, but then your model, which I have here, and I also kind of included a demographic swing thing as well into it, and it's the same thing. You plug in the popular vote, you see how much the popular vote changes from 2020, and then from there it kind of does it. And see, it looks at the 2008 margin to 2020, it looks at the shift, and it looks at the average shift, looks at how it vote relative to 2020, vote relative to the nation in 2024, and then I kind of also project with the demographics, and then that gets averaged out, and then your results alongside mine over here are then averaged out to then finally get my model, which then results in this. And what's actually quite interesting is, yes, Rhode Island is likely, New York would end up being a likely state, a lot of the northeastern states would end up being likely states. New York is within 11 points, so that is pretty interesting. Delaware and New Jersey, I noticed in your latest video you do have them lean. However, New Jersey right now, according to my model, is slightly above, the threshold of being lean. It's currently a 5.9 percentage point victory, and Delaware as of right now is actually considered a 9 point victory for Joe Biden as of right now, because also my model does account for trends as well. So like if you look, for example, it accounts for like the trend of the state, from 2016 to 2020. And so, it kind of, basically kind of moves the state a certain way to kind of account for trends and whatnot. And then that gets reflected onto the model as well. So like if Delaware would have trended more to the right, like it'd be a closer state. And since Illinois theoretically trended to the right last cycle. Like if you see here, the state trended 1.4% to the right, and so that gets reflected on here. Even like the state of like Hawaii for or yeah, see Illinois trended to the right by like 2.5% essentially. And even Hawaii trended like 5 points to the right compared to the rest of the nation. And on top of the demographic shift, that's going to push the state, super far to the right compared to the previous cycle. Hawaii is actually under 15 points according to my model, which is pretty interesting as well. Florida and Texas, as of right now, are currently projected to be, likely margins. So I am gonna change those to likely as of right now. We're gonna use plus 15 for this video, and we look at Maine's first, and Maine's first is still going to be safe Democrat. It was a pretty big victory in 2020. It was a 23-point win, and that district's actually trending quite a bit to the left. And so that's one of the reasons why Maine is trending to the left as a whole, is because Maine's first is trending left like off a cliff. Like it's pretty crazy. If we actually go down here and we find Maine's first, we'll actually see, like, look, you see that it swung 8 points to the left, and that also gets accounted for into the model. And the trend was minus 1.2 to the left, and so that's also a thing too. And then amongst average change in demographics, it has one of the smallest changes, out of any one of the states here. And so that also, even with the popular vote shifts to the right, it's also not really shifting that much either. You could see a lot of states that are pretty big, like California, Georgia, Hawaii, states like Maine, district like Maine second, New Mexico, Texas, like places with a lot of Hispanic voters are actually shifting quite a bit to the right, which is pretty interesting. Like their average change in demographics per 1 point in the popular vote is the greatest out of most of these states. So you would notice a lot of states with a high Hispanic population or minority population, their average shift tends to be a little bit bigger. States with a large white population, for example, New Hampshire only 0.7, Mississippi is like 1.8, Missouri is like only a point, Michigan is 1.1. So that also gets reflected as well. What do you think about this so far? Washington and Oregon are also listed as likely states on my model. Washington's like almost 10, and Oregon's like an 8-point win. What do you think about this so far?
Sorry, hold on, my screen's kind of lagging there. Okay, um, yeah, so Washington and Oregon, I see those as likely for Biden. I feel like Oregon could potentially go in the lean potentially if it gets like really bad for Biden. I think it's likely. And then I think on top of that, I think there are I'm trying to remember the likely states for Biden that I have. I don't think there are any more. I'm trying to remember. Um, I don't think so. But yeah, for the I'll go to the Trump likely states.
Mhm.
So I have all the six major swing states. So Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and I actually also have North Carolina in the Trump likely category as well. Um, and yeah, I predict that the national environment is going to swing about 10 to 11 points from 2020. And so, it's based on previous historical polling bias. Trump is massively underestimated in polling aggregates. He was underestimated by over 4 points in 2020, and in 2016 he was underestimated by 3 points. So those are large underestimations. And I don't see any indication really that the polling aggregates have changed. I mean, their methodologies are exactly the same. They have the same weighting systems, the same methodologies in terms of gathering their polling data. There's nothing notable to really suggest that they would be improving. I've heard some people say that apparently the polls have improved since then, but I haven't really seen any big change that would say that. And so yeah, I think I'll go to the Biden lean states. So I have Colorado. I think I had it at 4 points or 5 points for Biden. Illinois, pretty similar, about 4 to 5 points for Biden. Um,
Well, what I'm gonna do
and then
is
for
since
the
I'm
Yep.
using 1 to 5 for as the lean, and like 5 to 10 is likely. That's usually what I use. I know yours is a little bit different. But I use kind of like the
Yeah, yeah,
standard of
yeah.
what they usually have, and currently my model has Colorado at like 5.7, and so is Illinois. They're both at actually 5.7. Illinois is a huge shift in the model because with accompanied with a big, demographic, a trend shift plus a decent demographic shift, that accounts for the state shifting massively to the right, and that's with the polling and the national average and all that stuff, really trending that state there. So that also goes in the likely column alongside Colorado as well. All right, so pretty much, so as of right now, there's only a couple states. These are all of the states actually that are decided by under 5 points in my model, which is pretty crazy to even think about. States like like New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Maine at large are would all be decided by under 5 points. What do you have for Virginia as of right now?
So the state of Virginia right now, it's kind of funny. This state is like it is the closest state currently in my forecast.
Wow.
So as I mentioned earlier, yeah, yeah. So I currently have it as tilt for Biden as of right now. It is very, very close. I'm so torn on this state right now. So basically, the idea is that so my popular vote model has about a 10-point shift to the
Mm-hmm.
right from 2020. And Virginia, the state of Virginia has pretty average racial demographics. Like it's pretty balanced. Like it kind of reflects the nation or the national average. Like I
Right.
think whites are about 60% of the state electorate, which is, or sorry, 70%, which is the national average. I think it has a bit more black voters than the national average, but it has some Hispanics, some Asians as well.
Right.
And if it shifted, so it's gonna shift about, roughly the national average, right? Just
Right.
about. And so Biden won it by just over 10 points in 2020. And so if it shifts about 10 points, that's, it could go either way, theoretically speaking.
Right.
And so yeah, it's currently my closest state in my forecast right now. And it's kind of interesting because in Trump's internal polling data, it actually shows, something pretty close to that. It shows that I think the most recent one it showed in like a head-to-head matchup, it showed like something like Biden +4, but with third parties, right? Because that's the big thing that's gonna basically sap support from Biden. Third parties included I think it was Biden +1 with Trump's internal polling data.
Right.
And so that's really close. That's really, really close. And so
Right.
it's definitely gonna be one of the hardest states to predict. I think it's gonna be really close. It's gonna come down to the wire. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, he's the governor of the state. I think did he endorse Trump, by the way? I think he did, didn't he?
Think he did. However, if we look at this, the state trend, swung 4.8% to the left in 2020 compared to 2016. And if we look at the trend, it's actually it trended 2.2% to the left compared to the national environment. So I think that because of that, my model still shows Virginia being a 1.6 percentage point victory. But however, I believe that if I were to make my popular vote, what do you have the popular vote at, like 5.5, right?
Yeah, yeah. My current
Yeah,
popular vote is 5.5.
5.5, if 4.5 plus 5.5, that's like 10 points exact. That's like, well, basically 10 points. So, yeah, my model would have Virginia flipping in that scenario, but states like New Hampshire would be flipping already. New Mexico would be like a 3-point win already. Maine at large would already be flipping. Illinois would be really close with Colorado. Like they'd be roughly the same. Illinois would actually be voting to the right of Colorado in this scenario already, which is pretty interesting. They'd both be like 3-point victories. And if we look at Delaware, it'd be a 7-point win for Biden. New Jersey would be within three. So like New Jersey, Illinois, and Colorado would basically be voting in line with each other essentially. And Virginia would be flipping, but I do have a couple other states already flipping before that. So that's kind of the thing. Um, but right now, I'm just kind of going based on the incumbent approval ratings. like of Biden and the favorability of Trump. That's mainly what I'm going off of to plug into the model for now. I'd say that the national popular vote is probably gonna be like, because Trump usually gets underestimated in the aggregate by 2 to 4 points, like you've said. I think it possibly ends up being like 3.5. That's what I'm thinking right now. And so 4.5, that's like an 8 point shift to the right. And that puts Virginia at exactly a percentage point. It's exactly 1 point. And that actually puts New Hampshire in the Republican column. That puts Maine at large really close. But for right now, Virginia is like a 1.5 point victory. So even with my model, it would be showing that. By the way, guys, we are 4 subscribers away from 10,000 subscribers. So you guys could go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you guys are watching, you guys have to hit subscribe to type in the chat either way. But if you guys could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Um, Oh, okay. I was about to say, I was like, ain't no way somebody unsub, because I guess my thing on my screen and like my studio app on my phone, like they're not completely in sync. So like on my phone it showed like one more subscriber than I had on here, and I was like, what? Miami S Kitchen says, I like the MAGA hat. Thank you. I appreciate it. Guys, how would it be funny if we just unsub right now? Okay, come on, Patrick. Hello, J Eclipse. How you doing? Um, Robot fan. Hello from Alaska. Bryce says, I believe he said something to me. America's Spiritual Politics says, hey, on point. We are 3 subscribers away now. We are really, really close. Most of that's coming from the latest video that I actually posted today, which did pretty well. I really like the way I did the thumbnail today. I think the thumbnail was pretty sweet. So I think that is boosting the engagement a little bit. So I am going to be paying attention to that a lot more from now on. But either way, just to kind of top it off here at the end, we can see that as of right now, Minnesota is considered to be a tilt margin for Trump, which I think is roughly where you have it at right now, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes, yes, I have
Yeah.
it told Trump.
I also have New Mexico. It's like razor thin. I think it's like 0.04%. Like it's like Florida. It's like 2000 Florida type margins. Like it's really close. Like honestly, it could go either way. Um, at this point, like it could really go either way. So
That's interesting. I think New Mexico specifically, I think and you kind of brought this up earlier. I think Hispanics are definitely going to states that are heavy Hispanic are going to trend further right than the nation. And so and I think I could be mistaken. I think New Mexico's electorate is something around like I want to say like high 30s
right,
Hispanic. And so it's going to shift more right than the average, right? And so
right,
and I think that Biden won the state by I think it was like 10.8 in 2020.
right,
And so if it's going to shift more than the average, and plus, it's all. This is the big thing for me with New Mexico on point. I think New Mexico is also because it's a border state. The border is a huge issue. It's like it's the number one issue facing the electorate at least right now, and that's for the nation as a whole. So
right,
imagine how much that's going to impact a border state like New Mexico. Also Texas and Arizona as well. I mean, it's going to shift those states to the right. It doesn't matter as much for the states up north, but I think definitely the states on the border, they're going to experience massive shifts to the right. And also New Mexico is pretty heavy with working class voters as well, and
right.
those voters are in particular are shifting to Trump.
Right.
So
And the state did vote for Bush in '04, so it's, and it voted by a tilt margin. And before, it actually used to be more Democrat than Colorado. Colorado actually used to vote 8 points to the right of New Mexico back then in 2000. But what happened here is that the white vote was really making the state more Democrat. And that's why Colorado was closer than New Mexico. And the Hispanic vote back then was heavily Democratic as well. But the white vote is theoretically shifting to the left this cycle, or not shifting, but at least trending to the left compared to the national average. Guys, we're 1 sub away. We are 1 sub away from 10,000. So we are. One more. Who's gonna be the 10,000 subscriber? We're literally right there. We did it. 10,000 subs. It's official, guys.
Awesome.
We hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel. We are. Oh, okay. One down one. Oh man, come on. Well, either way, I got the screenshot on my phone. So, but yep, guys, we did it. We officially hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel. Hopefully, that person can resub now. That would be great. uh, okay, yep, they just went back. Yep. All right, guys, we hit 10,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody who just joined. Hey! All right,
Congratulations.
guys. Thank you, Red Eagle.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Red Eagle. I appreciate it. Guys, Red Eagle Politics is in the house right on time for 10,000 subscribers. Literally right on the money. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Probably not as good as you because you just hit 10,000. So that's a big accomplishment.
Thank you, Red Eagle. I appreciate it. So yeah, me and Gold Crown Politics, we're actually just going over our current electoral map right now. I don't know if you could see my screen, but right now we kind of project that Trump's going to win pretty easily, and actually I think this may be a good time for both of us to try to really show you why we think this is going to be the case, because we both know that we have pretty lopsided predictions compared to most people. Gold Crown, you're still in here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Gold Crown, this is Ready Go Politics. I don't know if I'm pretty sure you've heard of him before. And Ready Go, this is Gold Crown Politics. He's the one that I told you about like a couple weeks back that he started posting content.
With the election model.
Yes, what well yeah, his like
Yes.
relative to nation and stuff like that. Yeah, I had told you about that. He's actually been growing a lot. He just actually hit 2,000 like the other day. He had a video
Oh,
do
wow.
like 100K the other day, so that was really good. Um but you know
That
what?
season.
Yep. But you know what, Gold Crown, I'm actually gonna let you take the floor and explain to Red Eagle like why we think Trump's gonna have a way bigger election victory than we actually than most people actually expect. If you want to go ahead and explain to Red Eagle.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the big thing with me here, I think to predict elections, I think the number one way that you can do that is to predict the popular vote. That's just the number one way that you can do it. Because if you can predict the national environment first, you can kind of gauge how kind of where every state is going to go. And so, basically, right now, Trump is up by I think like 1 or 2 points in the five-way race. So if you include, Kennedy, Stein, and West, in the five-way race, Trump is up by 1 to 2 points. And historically speaking, Trump has been massively underestimated by polling aggregates. So not like single polls, where they have like margins of error or whatever, but
Yep.
polling aggregates like averages, they underestimate. So 2020, the polling aggregate actually underestimated Trump by over 4 points. The aggregate had Biden plus like I think it was plus 8.7, and the actual margin was Biden plus four and a
By
half.
the
And so
way,
that's
Gold,
points.
I'm gonna cut you off for a second. Ready, go. What he does is he takes a sample of the polls from like a month before, so he doesn't like just go based off the RCP aggregate. He like just gets
Yeah.
all the polls and he goes back like a month. Like I know the RCP aggregate had a like 7.2, but he had 8.7 because he just goes back like a month instead of just doing whatever RCP does. They like mix and match. They like pick out polls. I don't know why they do that. It doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like the way Gold Crown does it is better. But either way, Gold Crown, you can continue.
Yeah, yeah. So I go a full month back for the polling, just to get a better sample size. Yeah, RCP, like you said, on point. They only pick out like five of the most recent polls, so it's kind of it's not enough of a sample size. And so yeah, basically, the idea is that if Trump is up by about 2 points in the five-way aggregate, and if he's going to be underestimated by 3 to 4 points, he's up 5 to 6 in the popular vote. And I think the biggest reason for that, I think, is third parties are going to take a much larger share from Biden than I think that most people are predicting. Because Stein and West, I think that they're both going to get about 1% nationally, and they're far left candidates. I mean, they're I don't realistically see a Trump voter voting for those for
No.
those two candidates. And then I think Kennedy, he's going to take from both candidates, but I think he'll take slightly more from Biden. At least that's what the data is showing. And so, yeah, I think if Trump wins the popular vote, which is what I'm predicting, he wins it by about 5-6 points. And there were actually multiple indicators that show that he wins it by about that amount. That would be about a 10-point national shift to the right from 2020 because Biden won the popular vote by 4.5 4 years ago. And, Trump plus 5.5, which is what I currently have it at. That's a 10-point shift to the right from 2020. So every state on average would shift 10 points to the right. And of course, every state is different. They're going to differ in terms of their shifts, their individual shifts. But yeah, so I currently have Trump winning 328 electoral votes. I think you can see the map right there. So I have Trump flipping New Mexico by I think a lean margin, Minnesota by a tilt margin, and then Virginia is I have it as tilt for Biden, at least as of right now. It's going to be really close. I think it'll go like about a point for Biden, at least as of right now. Things can change. The polls can reflect new events and new things that unfold over time. But yeah, that's currently kind of what I see it as. And I actually predicted back in 2020, I actually predicted the popular vote within a single point. I predicted about a 5.2 point popular vote
Yeah.
win for Biden, and he actually won it by 4.5. So that's pretty close, right? I mean, if you
Same
can get the
model,
popular,
everything.
What happened?
was that?
Like within the same model, you predicted a 5.2.
Yeah, yeah. So the same model.
Okay.
So yeah. So basically, what I did was in 2016, the polling aggregate underestimated Trump by 3 points, and so basically, what I did was I assumed that 3 point underestimation of Trump in the polling aggregate, and then there was,
What?
according to the polling data, there was a bit of a difference in terms of third party turnout, and so I bumped that up to 3.5. And so at the time, the aggregate was showing Biden plus 8.7, as I said, in 2020. And so I assumed at the time a 3.5 point Trump underestimation, and that got me to Biden plus 5.2. And so that was, zero point 0.7 off. That's not bad, right? It's not bad.
So
It's
you
pretty.
mean because are you talking about his percent total margin or his like his popular vote deficit in terms of the 2016? Because the polls in 2016 only underestimated him by it seems like 1.1%. So
Well,
you
maybe.
got
Are you?
Well,
Uh,
3 from.
what are
well,
you looking at? Are you
well.
looking at?
Ready? Go.
So so you're not well you're not using RCP then for your underestimation is what you're saying.
Well, so I am actually using RCP, but I don't use the average that they display because what RCP does is they only take like a small sample size of like the five most recent polls. And so what I do is I like to go about a month back to get a more accurate sample size. So I like to go like 20-30 polls back, which is about a month in the
Mm.
aggregate. And that decreases the margin of error. And so, because you want a better sample size. If you only have like five polls, I don't think that's enough. And so I go about a month back in the aggregate. And so, um, yeah, so 2016, he was underestimated by 3 points. 2020 was 4 points. And I think, there's no real indication that he's not going to be underestimated by about that same amount again. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that now it's definitely true that going back like a month because not a lot's changed. I feel like people aren't switching their votes as much. It's not like a month ago the polls were much different. It's good to have a higher sample size. I will say though, for just to play devil's advocate for 2016, there was several reasons for possible shifts. In October you had like the Access Hollywood tape, and then you get the reopening of the email investigation as well that kind of like switched things in both directions, I guess. So that might be something to consider. But in terms of 2020, seemed like it would be useful to take the month more so than not, because a lot of people now are starting to vote earlier, and that means that the polls that were if you like look at 2022, for example, the polls in all the states that were accurate were like taken about a month away from the election, but you saw like this red mirage in the polling in a lot of places, in part because of the fact that people that already voted probably were less likely to respond to polls and they didn't like accurately gauge that, I feel. So
Right.
that might be why some of the polls were off in 22. But even just taking the current popular vote at face value, even say if they're underestimating Biden by 4, Trump still probably wins, which is the thing that I think a lot of people know, and that's kind of why they feel as if Trump is the favorite, because he obviously is at this point, which never really was the case in 2016 or 2020, that he was the clear favorite. I mean, I thought that he'd pull it out in 2020, but judging from the data, he was not the clear favorite. 2016, or I should say Biden was the clear favorite. 2016, though, there was no clear favorite, even though the media essentially anointed Hillary as the favorite, and we saw what happened. So, I mean, that's just it's all part of the equation.
No, yeah, if you looked at the data in 2016, you would have clearly noticed that there was definitely not a clear favorite whatsoever. I don't understand how they did that bad of a job predicting that election because there was literally no clear favorite. The aggregate was within a couple points. So that was a really bad look on mainstream media, which, they never failed to look bad either way. But kind of to add on to, kind of gold crown politics and the discussion from that, what's interesting is that I actually think what's going to happen, and Rodrigo, I don't know if you're going to agree with me. I don't know if you notice in the registered voter polls, Trump does better than the likely voter samples now. Like it's the reverse from 2020. So what I actually think is going to happen is once early voting starts, I actually think the polls are going to start getting closer. And so what's going to happen is it's going to be like, I think it's going to be like a reverse 2022 where the polls start narrowing up and Biden might even take the lead in the aggregate once early voting starts, because I feel like a lot of people are going to start voting and a lot of Trump voters who already vote early are not going to answer polling aggregates. Same thing with, Biden, and the same thing actually
Do you think
happened.
more Trump voters are going to vote early, is what you're saying, than Biden voters? Because I'm not. I know he's going to try to push it more. I just don't know if that's
not
entirely
not
true.
not
But
necessarily that, but even if you look in 2020, the aggregate
hmm
was pretty close, leading up, to the months of the summer. Even in May where the whole, BLM riot stuff happened, it was still pretty close. And then Biden kind of had this huge lead in the summer. Trump kind of caught up in August a little bit. But once early voting started around here, you see the aggregate got more Democratic. Even at one point in October, Biden was leading by 10. Trump got kind of caught up. But if you notice, before the summer, Trump was still somewhat competitive in the aggregate. And so I think that there's going to be a decent amount more Trump supporters probably voting early, not necessarily by mail, but possibly voting early may be in effect. So there may be some Trump supporters
yep,
that don't get factored into polling. And so Biden,
they got to target them.
I expect Biden's margin in the polling aggregate. This is what I think is going to happen. I think he is going to increase in the aggregate for now. I think by the time we get to like the summer or the fall, he'll probably take the lead in the two-way race. The three-way race, I don't know if he's actually going to take the lead with that. And this is the aggregate I like to use more because it's the five-way race. Um, and what's
hmm
actually quite funny is to kind of give credibility to, Gold Crown politics as well. Um, Donald Trump's favorability is currently sitting at like 43.1%. And you've talked about this before, how favorables tend to gauge the election pretty well. And so if Trump's popular vote percentage ends up being 43.1, that ends up getting a pretty decent sized popular vote victory. It's like a 4.3 percentage point victory as well. And let's say Biden's, let's say even if he's overstated, the popular vote would still be Trump plus 3. But let's say the polls are overestimating Biden's support, which there's a possibility that may happen too. That's also the thing as well, is that the aggregate may in fact be overstating Biden's support. There were polls in like 2021 that had his approval rating in the mid 50s, even like the high 50s even, which I definitely don't think his approval rating was around there at the time. Um,
It might have been slightly it was probably around nationally, I'd say it was around, like, 51, 52.
yeah,
But I think
something
a lot of people just didn't th all they would see is, like, whenever he'd be speaking and it'd be, like, cut 10 minutes and people were just
right,
upset at the status quo because things, were obviously in turmoil. It wasn't all Trump's
right.
realize it now, which is why he's winning. And still, it took some, midnight miraculous stuff
Yep,
to aid Biden across the
yep,
finish
and I
line. But
think it's
2 points I wanted to make.
mhm.
One is that it is very possible that at some point, whether it's due to the DNC or as your theory that you've mentioned, that Biden does end up taking a polling lead. And I can already imagine the insufferableness that's going to come
Yes.
from a lot of
Yeah.
people
"Oh
when
my
that
god, Donald
happens.
Trump's DOA!" The Democrats are
Um,
gonna be jumping for joy. "Oh, great, you're leading the aggregate by 1 instead of 7.2 like you were on election day in 2020, and
Yeah,
you
and
barely won by
it's
half."
not likely gonna be enough, but he'll take a lead. It's
Yeah.
not, like, guaranteed to stay there, and they're gonna be insufferable about it. But also, when it comes, down to it, it doesn't mean that it's permanent. Obviously, Trump was never gonna stay leading by 4 points in the head-to-head most likely. But in terms of the other thing I was gonna say is that I feel like a lot of this new, like, election legislation that the left has passed in places like Michigan, in the midterms where they're increasing in-person early voting, that's probably going to backfire because
Yeah.
states that have in-person early voting,
Right.
that like Texas, Florida, North Carolina, usually that's like the Republican way of taking advantage
Yeah.
of the like election month, and they've been better at it. So I
Yep.
feel like that could definitely come back to boost Trump in Michigan,
That is true.
Wisconsin, hopefully they in Georgia and things like that. But like some of these counties in Georgia, like even in the midterms, trying to like stop early voting was the dumbest thing ever because the blue areas had it, but the red areas didn't. It's like,
Right.
what are you doing?
Right.
But I feel like people now kind of get it more because Trump does have this poll, and he was against. I mean, he never even told people don't vote early. He just told people
That
like
it was
about
gonna be
how bad
rigged.
mail-in
Right.
voting is,
Yeah.
and now he still doesn't like it. I don't like it,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he's going out there and he's making sure that people get out there,
Right.
vote, do it whichever way's easiest for them. And I think that that's what needs to be done.
Right,
People need to
because
be voting, period.
right.
It doesn't matter how, but it's better to bank the votes because we have a low propensity base. Democrats
Right.
have a good portion of their base that's low propensity, but a
Yeah.
lot of their turnout gets inflated because of early voting. I mean, you see that with a lot
Right.
of
But
the black vote in 2020.
And I actually want to mention something really quick. I think that Biden genuinely fell for a trap in the debate. Trump, I believe, because your take on this is that, oh, the debate's not going to have that much of an impact, which I think is true because, in politics, everybody's memory is a goldfish. Barely even anybody talks about Afghanistan anymore. Like it's just not, it's just the way it is. But what I want to mention is that I actually think that Trump was being really strategic with taunting Biden for a debate because I think he fed into his ego and I think Biden fed into it because he's down in the aggregate by 3. And what I think the problem for Biden is now, this is going to be the first time there's a debate before early voting even starts.
Before conventions, period.
Before
Right. Yeah.
conventions even start. So
Well, yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, the
before
debate.
early
I think
voting.
that.
And usually the reason why Democrats tend to do good nationally is because early voting usually starts like before the first debate. A lot of like John Fetterman 100% won by a large margin because of early voting. Like if it was not for
Yep.
early voting, he probably would have won by like a tilt margin or probably would have even lost it even.
If they debated before early voting started, I do believe Dr. Oz would have probably found a way to win. I mean,
Yeah.
the late deciders heavily broke for Oz,
Yes. Yes.
and obviously he had flaws. I'm not trying to discount
No, of
that,
course he did.
but
Yeah.
there's a reason for it. And like the whole basement strategy, now Biden realizes, okay, so he can't hide. He can't hide in the basement because it's not working for him.
Nope.
So he's trying to go out there and he's trying to do the opposite strategy. He was like saying, "Oh, I'll debate Trump if he behaves." Now he wants to debate him twice, which
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
he's trying to capitalize early. So he wants to
Yeah.
debate early, maybe because it's insurance, but also
It
because he
is. Yeah.
needs momentum. That's why he needs the momentum. That's why he's going out there,
Yep.
calling for the early debate. He should do more. You know, if Biden wants to do
Yeah.
this debate, fine. Trump did say anytime, anywhere, any place, and that does include CNN, whether people like it or not. I don't really feel as if the moderators being like biased or whatever is going to be the determining factor. I think that people can kind of see through that if they're undecided to begin with, and
Right. And
you
what's
know, them cutting his microphone off is a good thing too, because it will let Biden stumble over
Yep.
himself, trip over words,
Yep.
and it'll just kind of allow for him to not, or the debate to not have the same like
Right.
possible negative impact the first one did.
Nope. Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that this debate's going to be a horrible look for Biden. And what's actually interesting is that even if Biden were to win the national popular vote by the same amount he did in 2020 with the same approval rating, so let's say he was up by 6 in the approval rating, according to my model, he still loses the electoral college. He would still lose. He would actually, what's funny is that we'd have this weird map where Trump would win 270 to 268. I don't know if you recognize this from last year. A lot of people were putting this, including myself. This is the map that I had for Trump and Biden for a long time last year. For a while, because everybody was pretty black pilled on Georgia for a very, very long time. And like towards the end of 2023, I was kind of like, okay, maybe Georgia's tilt Trump. Maybe he is
Yeah.
doing better. But yeah, in the beginning of 2023, this is what the data was looking like. But my model suggests
No,
that even,
that's
yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll let you finish, but I had to say something after that.
But yeah, this is what the model shows. Like if Biden, and the thing is, the reason why I'm leaving this part of the model the same is because my part of the model is programmed for you to plug in the RCP aggregate and the approval rating. So like I can't plug in whatever number I want, because the way I reverse engineered it was to have the exact same approval rating for Trump, and the aggregate and the swing, like everything had to be exactly how it was in 2020. So that's how I reversed programmed it essentially. So I have to plug in the RCP aggregate, and Gold Crown Politics is part of the model. I'm just plugging in the projected popular vote, and the popular vote doesn't move anywhere from 2020, and that ends up giving me this result. And you can see what's funny is that
Yeah, I mean,
Alaska's closer because it trends to the right, to the left, sort of. Texas is a
yeah,
five
it's
point.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Texas.
some of this just isn't gonna happen, but um, because I feel like it just doesn't take every single thing into account. Now, like Alaska, Trump probably doesn't get a ridiculously high percent of the vote, but they don't
No,
like incumbents. They really don't like
no, they
Biden.
don't.
I really feel as if Alaska's a state that Trump could win by like 15, just because I think
Yeah.
RFK Jr.
No, no, no.
probably could
Yeah.
end up getting 10% of the vote there, even
No,
if
yeah.
he gets like 2% nationwide. I mean, even I think he's very comparable to Rolf Nader. Maybe he
Hmm.
does have more of like a always trying to pander to conservatives edge, but I don't think it's working despite them platforming him. And in
Right.
terms of the electoral map that you were showing on, yeah, I think it was YapMS in the
Yes.
YapMS tab. Um, yeah, that is what I thought actually. After the midterms, I'm like, this is probably how Trump wins. I didn't think highly of Arizona, Georgia.
Nope.
Now the poll, like they could be wrong, but they're not going to be wrong by 5,
No.
especially this far
No.
out.
No, they
And
can't be.
Nevada, I think prime real estate for Trump, easy. I think it could be like it. I think Clark County could. I think it's going to flip actually, or at least it'll be close.
Right. No, yeah.
A
No,
lot of these
100%.
Hispanics.
100%. I think at this point, like really looking at everything, if you wanted to draw up some sort of like toss up map, I'd say that this is probably a pretty convincing battleground map. I would still leave Maine at large in New Hampshire, likely Democrat, just because I feel like or lean Dem, just because I
Yeah,
think that the white vote's gonna trend to the left compared to the national environment. That's the only reason why I think
don't want to get
Oregon.
too greedy, I guess.
Right. So this is kind of, and then like you would put Georgia and Arizona. I actually think Arizona is a lot
That's
better.
huge.
I think Arizona is a lot better for Trump now, just because the polling aggregate, he's up by he's up by 5.6 in the five-way race. I can't see it being wrong by 5.6%. I just can't.
Well, yeah,
Biden
that's the thing. And you talk
Biden
about
was
Trump,
ahead.
like Trump's floor
Hmm.
is high. His
Yeah.
floor is so high in Arizona. You know, if you like even these other people, Kerry Lake would have won just if the Green Party got in the ballot. There's no
Yeah.
way.
Right.
Um, and I feel like with the third parties, they're probably going to take away from like the McCain, Biden type of voter. That's who's
Right.
going to go third party. And
Right.
that's going to give him Arizona. I think he wins Georgia. That's why Nebraska's second is so crucial
Yes,
because
it
if
is.
he doesn't need anything else,
No,
but
it actually would be funny.
it's a gamble.
And what's funny is that actually I'd even argue that he probably doesn't even need Nebraska second because even Maine at large, if you get the latest polls out of there and you do an aggregate, he's actually leading in Maine at large by more than the poll from Nebraska second, which is crazy to even think about. So if he were to win the Sun Belt and just pick up Maine, he actually wins 270 outright, which honestly, if this were to happen, that would be hilarious. That'd be so funny if that happened because the media would
Not as
lose their
funny as my
mind.
Hawaii scenario.
That would be extremely crazy. Gold Crown, what do you think about Maine at large potentially flipping like that? Like if it kind of just ends up going a certain way.
Oh man, that would be pretty crazy. I think like what you said, I think that white voters are trending further to the left over time. So I think that my model has whites trending to the right in raw terms, but in relative terms, they're going to shift to the left. And so I have Maine at large. I think I have Maine at large as a tilt margin for Biden. It could come pretty close, but I personally think that um this election, if it is closer than what I'm predicting or what you're predicting on point, I think it's definitely going to be won through the Rust Belt because the
Yeah,
Sun Belt, and as you can see right there, it only gets Trump to 268. And so if you can't rely on Nebraska second flipping,
right.
you need one of the three Rust
Yeah,
Belt
you
swing
do need
states.
one of them.
And typically, I don't know if you know about this, Rep, but um the Rust Belt swing states typically vote in tandem with each other, and they voted the same way for 8 straight election cycles. So, like every single election cycle since 1992, they've all voted the same exact way, and in part because they have such similar demographics in those states. They have a lot of white working class voters, and so they have the propensity to vote basically the same way. And so, I think that for 2024, if it is a closer race, I think that whichever candidate wins one of them is most likely to win all three of them, I think, in all likelihood. And I personally think that's why Trump is the most electable GOP candidate, just because he has the most appeal for those, Rust Belt voters. And I think that, yeah, so I think that this election is going to be won through the Rust Belt for sure. I think that, kind of like a more establishmentarian candidate like a Nikki Haley or Ron
Oh,
DeSantis, there's
wouldn't be
no
close.
yeah, yeah. There's no winning path through the Sun Belt. You got to pick off one of those three Rust Belt states. So
Mhm.
that's definitely why I think Trump is he's definitely the most electable to
And
me.
right,
Exactly, yeah, I think that, there's a good chance that he doesn't take all 3 just because, even though they all do vote the same, if it's close in let's say, he gets Wisconsin by, like, hypothetically 1%, the others aren't a guarantee. I personally think that there does need to be this focus on Eastern Pennsylvania because that is, and he did with the New Jersey rally. I think he did it well, but
yeah,
there needs to be this focus on Eastern Pennsylvania because of the fact that it's just a, I think you could say that's like a Biden home field advantage thing, but I feel like it's kind of due to just revert back to like the 2016 margins, and if it does, it's game over. And even then, like if black turnout just drops like 5% in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Milwaukee, that's almost enough to give Trump the election alone, presuming you don't have any shifts anywhere else. And I think there will be some shifts. I think you're going to see lower turnout in the suburbs as well. I think Trump is probably going to stop the bleeding in them, even if a lot of that just means there's a higher third party vote share in the suburbs, because it's not like Biden is like this suburban, strong individual just because he had one election where in the suburbs he posted respectable numbers where Trump was more unfavorable, which again is not the case right now.
right. And here's the thing. Right now on my screen, I actually have Biden's basically his only pathway to the presidency, which is literally he has to pick off all three Rust Belt states, and he wins with 270. Like it's like within
Right,
the
right.
margin of error. And what's funny is that Red Eagle, even at one point, you had Trump winning 270 with Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. Usually, when a candidate or an incumbent is in their best case scenario or their possible winning scenario is winning with like 270, 275, they tend to lose. Because even like in 2016, Kyle Kalinske, who was theoretically probably one of the most accurate people in 2016, well, theoretically, Red Eagle was actually the most accurate. He actually only got Michigan wrong. He was the only person who came pretty close.
Oh, and
Kyle
New Hampshire.
oh you had New Hampshire going red?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
that's
was before my channel though,
no,
so
yeah, but that's
well,
still
2016, yeah.
right, but it still doesn't matter, like, either way. But you were still pretty close, like, I mean, and New Hampshire was pretty close. I would have not even caught that back then. So that was pretty good assessment there. But um, what I was gonna say was that in 2016, Kyle Kalinske had, you know, the Rust Belt in Biden, Hillary scenario winning like 278 because she takes that and Nevada and Trump gets Arizona, Georgia, and all the other states. You know, a lot of people had Trump winning, had him winning 270 or with Pennsylvania like you did, but most people had him winning Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and Nebraska second. And now Biden, all the people are talking about, oh, well, he just needs to hold on to the Rust Belt and he gets 270. But usually when people start talking about that, that's usually a sign that they're probably not going to win the election. Now again, it's important to not underestimate Biden. I also think that Red Eagle's right in the sense that don't fall into the media narrative that as long as Biden doesn't, crap himself or have a stroke on stage, that he lost the debate. Like, because that too is also a problem because they really for whatever reason, the media loves to kind of harp on the fact that he's old and all this stuff. And I feel like it's on purpose to try to set the expectations really low for him. That's just my personal opinion on that. So, and and that's something that you've talked about, and I think Biden is not going to do that bad in the debate. Like, I mean, I think Trump will probably beat him. Usually incumbents don't tend to do that good, and Biden's going into favorables in the low 40s into a first debate, which is extremely low for a modern president. But at the same time, I mean, I don't think he's going to malfunction on stage either, but I think he's probably going to only focus on January 6th. He's probably going to focus on abortion. And whenever he gets asked about like the economy or inflation or crime or any of these things, I don't know what he would say. I generally don't know what he's going to say. I'm really excited to stream that debate.
Biden?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to stream that debate because I'm really curious what he has to say. I'm genuinely curious
Yeah,
what he's going to.
I'll make the final point about the debate, and then I kinda gotta head out because I
Hmm.
got things to do.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, in terms of the debate, yeah, Trump needs to compare and contrast, and
Yeah.
he definitely needs to steer clear. I don't think Trump is gonna bring up 2020 on the debate stage. He would be
Mm,
better off not doing
nope.
it. Let
Don't.
Biden bring
Nope.
it up,
Yeah.
then let Trump, respond.
Yeah.
In terms of like the 1-6 stuff, like he remember the town hall, he pulled out the receipts. I don't know. Trump will have to find he'll have to find a response to some of these things that I guess would be enough to appeal to undecideds as well. He doesn't really mention the election. He doesn't use the stolen
No,
word
no, no.
as much, which is probably a good thing. And I
Which
didn't
is a
think
good
he
thing,
would
yeah.
down the stretch.
No, which is a
But
really
he
good
does
thing.
say the word. He does say the R word,
Mhm.
rig, and he said that in 2016 because that's what the system is. I mean, just
Right,
look at what they're doing in the trials. Like,
right.
obviously, they don't need to fake a single ballot for Trump to accurately describe the American election system as the word rigged. If it's basically, I mean, the way that it is. So he's gonna have to find ways to kind of, I guess you would say, dance around it. But then he could hit Biden back. Biden says something about democracy. What is Trump gonna
Ooh,
say?
yeah.
Well, you're the one trying to put your political opponents in prison, trying to kick people off,
Ooh.
done canceling primaries. Like there's so much subject matter there that would kind of just neutralize the issue.
Oh my god,
And
I
like
cannot.
on abortion, this is another thing. Trump said he needs to say, Joe Biden, you in 1980 said that Roe v. Wade was wrongfully decided and it belongs to the states. What exactly changed since then? Because it's true. And then he could kind of say
Oh
that polls show
man.
that a majority of Americans want it up to the states. And like I know that it might make some people in like the whole pro-life crowd upset if Trump says this, but I think that it probably could be beneficial to say like, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with every restriction, but it's true that these things belong to the states,
Right.
and Biden had the chance to codify it, but he didn't do it because he's sucks at literally everything he does, or
Man,
something like that. I don't know what he has to say,
you
but there's so
actually
much.
there is a lot. I just realized how bad it could actually end up being. That's terrible. Like now that you're reiterating like everything, oh man, there's so much that Trump could say. It's not even funny. And by the way, before you go, I actually think that you know how the debates nowadays usually like yes, they sway some voters, but it wasn't like in the 80s where Ronald Reagan hit them with the one-liners and he gained like 15 points nationally. I think there is a chance for a moment in the debate for Trump to probably gain a couple points in the debate. There's going to be multiple opportunities for him to actually do that this time. I think there is going to be an opportunity for Trump to kind of hit him with the one-liner and potentially end up swinging the aggregate a couple points even more in his favor. I think that actually could happen this cycle. Unlike the previous, cycles where the because you're going to be in jail line against Hillary, I think did swing some voters to him, but not as much as this would, or definitely not even compared to previous debate moments. Like even in 2000, Al Gore having really weird body language with George W. Bush decided the election essentially with a couple of swing voters because a lot of people were
Oh, but
turned off.
I'm told the debates don't matter from the keys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
so funny. Yeah, that
yeah, there's so much at
it's
play there, but
the
I don't want to
13 Ks.
open up that box.
He actually hasn't even confirmed that Biden's the winner. He says that there's 4 keys that are left to be decided, which I don't know
Yeah.
how the military failure could be undecided because there's such a glaringly obvious a failure there.
Well,
Like
the thing is that the
like
keys don't take into account public perception. They don't. That's a really,
and
really big factor
and the problem
because
with
nobody thinks he's doing a good job with anything.
And the problem is that people act like this guy's been right 100% of the time. This is really supposed to, his model is really more of a popular vote predictor in a
He
way.
said Trump would win it in 2016,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
popular vote.
yeah, right, yeah, and he didn't. And what's quite funny about it is that I guess there has to be some room for like 2000. Yeah, I get it. The election was within 100,000 votes in the popular vote, so you could see how the keys had room for error there. But in 2016, Trump ended up losing it by 2.1, and this guy was saying he was going to win it by what, a tilt margin or like a lean margin. What do you know what he said he was going to win the popular vote by? Because that's already pretty bad. Um Enough. You could argue that
In
this
terms of
is
what did you say? I'm sorry.
because you
You
said
said what
that
was your last question?
you said that he said Trump was going to win the popular vote. I didn't even know he said that.
Yeah, no, there's so many things that he's gotten wrong. I can't even like begin to, I guess you'd say, like categorize them all right now. But in terms of the debates, like, yeah, I think that Trump, he needs to have a prep team. He needs to prepare. I don't know who he's going to be like doing the mock debates against or whatever, but it's true. Like he does a lot of rallies. They're good, but I feel like now, whenever he does it, it's quality over quantity. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like he could do two, and maybe, yeah, obviously as the election season ramps up, do more. But until then, like debate or rally maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, do campaign events. But you
Mhm.
gotta, focus on the debate prep because that's crucial. You don't want to be blindsided because that's all Biden's going to be doing. Because like this is his Hail Mary to stay
Yep.
in office. I
Yep.
saw an article. I think it was the front of the New York
Yep.
Times or not New York, or New York Post. It said something about Biden's fail. They called it a fail Mary in terms of what he's doing on
I mean,
immigration and
essentially,
his
yeah.
agreement to debate Trump twice. And it's like, yeah, it's not looking too good
No,
for him.
it's
But in
not.
terms of the debate, the abortion thing, he can neutralize. The 1/6 thing, even, he can neutralize as well. Just
Yeah.
talk about how he, asked for more police, pull out the receipts with that and say that there was no plot to overthrow the government or whatever, and then flip it back on Biden being a threat to democracy. Obviously, we know when they say democracy, like it's one thing, but for, just cognitive dissonance, electoral politics, yeah, Trump needs to just say that Biden's the real threat to democracy, but provide examples why, because I feel like that's just something that can kind of, I guess, neutralize the issue in a way that otherwise it couldn't be. So
Right.
there's that. The other, I mean, like, what are they going to do? Try to talk about COVID, Trump's COVID response? Like, Trump could just say more people died under the first year of your presidency during
Yeah.
COVID than
Right,
in the
right.
last year of my presidency. Like, there's so many there's so many possible,
Yeah.
like,
It's
ways to just go about it. Trump just needs to get the facts in order
right.
and go from there. And if he's able to do that, I think that he'll win the debate. But like I said, it is early. I'm not saying it's not going to have an impact, but if anything, could give Trump a boost going into the
Yeah.
RNC. But will it be sustained? I hope that there's more debates in September and October. That's all I say, than whatever they have
Right.
scheduled.
Yeah. I think there needs to be more. And I think Biden, this is definitely a strategic move on his part to kind of get the first debate out of the way. But I think at the same time, he fell for a trap because this is before any early voting even starts. And I think that if a lot of people see this, it's just going to be a problem. Wait, I think Biden posted. Oh, no. What did he do
What
now? Oh God, he's memeing again. You know the picture of Joe Biden with the ice cream and he has like the letter L and there's like a Dairy Queen sign in the back.
Yeah, was it on his main account or his personal?
It's
Oh, I
his
see
main,
it.
yeah, it's his main account. Left Trump saying in 2020 the stock market will crash if Biden is elected. The Dow hitting 400,000 for the first time in history ever. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This guy, like, are
It's an
you?
intern posting the meme is what it is.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
of
like,
course,
the
but
the
like,
difference with
come
Trump is
on.
Trump will post memes on his own volition, whereas Biden, just some staffer is posting the meme. And obviously, like, it's funny because, and this is a
Wow.
point that Trump has used, and I don't know to what extent it's true, but it probably is. The stock market um, going up, it could also be because of the fact that, well, they're expecting a Trump victory, and that's kind of why.
Right, that would make sense. And also too, somebody in the comments said,
Inflation.
yeah, and somebody in the comments even said, imagine printing trillions of dollars and not thinking we'll lift the stock market. Like, come on, man. It's such a bad
Well,
look.
what's the
Basically, what's happening now is that all the, Obama interns, that were working for him that are a bunch of liberals from universities are now the ones that are actually working on the campaign. That's what's happened now. And to have those people run a campaign is the worst possible thing that they could have had for them because it's not a good look. Every take they have is bad. They even had that weird poster with Trump with a mustache and said that he's gonna ban interracial marriage or something like that, like with the whole abortion thing. Like it
Yeah, I
was just
think
such
that
a
of
bad
of all
look.
of
So,
all things that Donald Trump would do, that's like probably the least of them,
yeah,
given
like
some of his own relationship history.
wait,
Um,
really?
it's well, I mean, not explicitly, but
Mm,
he's definitely had a affinity for foreign women,
mm,
maybe not like minority women, but you know what I mean. Like, the
right,
notion that Donald Trump is somebody that would, like,
right,
actually go out there and do that is just
mm,
kind of just a ridiculous
yeah,
statement.
yeah. That's pretty insane, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's crazy. But guys, right now, I am actually gonna go ahead and end the stream now. So
Yeah, I'm gonna head
everybody,
out. It was
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Thanks for having me, I guess.
No, of
Maybe I'll
course.
come back on a future stream sometime soon.
No,
I
yeah,
don't know.
100%. And thank you, Gold Crown Politics, for also joining as well. We kind of had a long discussion about the map in 2024. And then just to kind of end off the stream, you know, I do have. Did they both leave? Gold Crown, are you there?
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, because I heard two of them. I was like, oh, he left. But I guess it like echoed on yours or something. But pretty much,
Yeah.
guys, we have the electoral map 328 to 210 electoral votes. We hit 10,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for doing that. We do have a documentary styled video on how I talked about how Trump's going to win 2024. I have that already in the bag. I need to see the video first. I have not seen it yet, but it's reportedly completed. It's around 16 minutes long. So that is going to be uploaded at some point. And I hope that video does well because me and that editor put a lot of work into it. And so if you guys did enjoy the live stream, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.